Hey everyone, welcome to the strategy guide for computer science internships. Today we're going to go over the zero to hero, okay? Why internships exist, how to prepare, and best practices for applying. All right, really quick, sorry this video is a little bit late. If you're watching from the future, I am filming this in 2020. But also, I've been involved in planning an online hackathon called Hack in Place, which is aimed at reimagining the virtual college experience for the upcoming fall. We're gonna have swag, brainstorming sessions, guest speakers, and workshops. It's gonna be awesome. Okay, so check out the link in the description if you're interested. All right, let's jump into it. Contrary to popular belief, the company is not expecting a ton of output or huge impressive projects from their interns. Okay, obviously, doing meaningful work and making contributions to the company are a huge plus, but in general, interns tend to work on less essential projects. Long story short, software engineering internships are a proof of concept where you are the concept. Okay, the main goal of the internship is to determine whether or not you are a good candidate for a full-time employee. And there are two reasons for this. Okay, firstly, 12 weeks is just not enough time for a new employee to get oriented and to achieve a level of mastery of the company codebase that doing critical work would require. Okay, furthermore, there's a lot of expertise and experience that's required to write production quality code that's efficient, scalable, testable, and readable. Okay, there's a universe of position-specific skills that you don't really learn in school, so you'll have to do a lot of on-the-job learning for any kind of software position. Second, bad hires are very expensive. Generally, it takes about a year to determine that an employee is a bad hire, and when you add up the numbers, that sums up to around $150,000, not including the lost work and the effort put into training that employee. Okay, to top it off, evaluating a candidate's eligibility for a role within a 3-hour interview window is virtually impossible. Okay, that's why referrals, employee references are so important. Okay, a referral bonus can go for around $2,000 to $5,000 at certain companies, which is insane. Again, a byproduct of the prior is that most companies are looking for juniors who they can hire again full-time the next year. Okay, it's hard but not impossible to get an internship during your freshman or sophomore summers. If you're internship hunting before your junior summer, I'd recommend that you try applying to smaller companies that are outside of Silicon Valley, since there's generally less competition for juniors. Obviously, apply to a bunch of places, but you'll probably get a little bit more luck with smaller companies. All right, now how to prepare. Well, preparation takes place in 2 steps. Number 1, learning the necessary skills to complete the internship. And number 2, making yourself shiny enough to land an interview. Okay, the latter arguably being harder. CS61A and CS61B actually give you a pretty decent background for a software engineering internship right out of the box, okay, which is pretty impressive in retrospect. 61A style, implement dysfunction problems, prepare you well for interviews, and 61B's focus on runtimes, data structures, and object-oriented programming give you a strong understanding of the fundamentals that you'll need. Okay, now in terms of essential upper division classes, the general consensus centers around the big 3. Basically, a proficient software engineer should take at least algorithms, databases, and operating systems. Okay, Berkeley's algorithms class goes deep into runtime analysis, common algorithms, and the projects and homeworks are super useful for interviews. All right, databases, well, virtually every company has a database system, so it's useful to have a strong understanding of the fundamentals of data storage. Operating systems is just a generally useful class. You learn a lot of useful industry relevant skills. It's too much to list here, but I've put the link to the class in the description. If you want to look at the syllabus, go and check that out. Obviously, there's a ton of other useful classes. I've covered them in the course planning video, so go ahead and check that out if you haven't seen it yet. There's other gateway classes like cybersecurity, user interface development, machine learning. Now, if you wrote about machine learning on your college apps, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you talked about natural language processing or self-driving cars, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can catch next week's episode on undergrad research. Being academically prepared is a great starter, but there's also many extracurriculars that you can use to strengthen your resume above the generic Berkeley student. In the most general sense, you want to show that you have initiative, that you can learn quickly and solve problems, and that you're passionate about tech. Okay, it's okay if you're not, but you should at least try to show a little bit of enthusiasm. You can get involved in the teaching community, you can build some simple side projects, or you can join a club to work on a live project with people. For some perspective, in my sophomore summer, I had 2 small projects underway and 1 semester of teaching experience, which was enough to land me an internship at a small contracting company in Southern California. By my junior year, I added another 2 semesters of teaching experience, a Ruby on Rails application from a decal, and a personal website, which I built from scratch the previous summer. Obviously, having internship experience or a large project from sophomore summer is helpful, and it's a significant factor, but it's not essential. All right, for the teaching track, students who enjoy a class can return to work as a lab assistant, then join computer science mentors to teach a small discussion, you can become a tutor, then apply to become a teaching assistant. Okay, and then eventually a head teaching assistant. Now, in terms of roadmap, this is a little more straightforward than the alternatives. You'll see applications for instructor positions posted near the end of the class. Okay, in my opinion, teaching is a great way to both reinforce your knowledge and demonstrate enthusiasm for your field. So you're probably thinking, like, how do I get started on a side project? Good question. That is a topic for another time, but designing and building a personal website is a great place to start. Outside of that, just make a note whenever an interesting idea pops into your head. I worked on a basic Avalon game solver and a Facebook marketplace bot to notify the user whenever an item gets listed, since I was tired of constantly checking the Berkeley free and for sale marketplace. I've never seriously been involved in tech clubs, but they're also a good place to join projects and get some experience. One of the most common questions I get is, does my GPA matter?
Well, yes, but actually no.
Your GPA sort of matters, but not as much as people would think. Okay, it's definitely an important part of your resume, but it's not a deal breaker for most companies. All right, that being said, most of my friends who ended up at YouTube, Salesforce, Amazon, Google, and Facebook had GPAs upwards of 3.5. Although a lower GPA might close some doors, your GPA isn't worth stressing out over in and of itself, since the average company doesn't really care as long as you're above a 3.0 or so. Same goes for a major. As long as you have the relevant skills, people don't really care. Now, there's one more key aspect of internships which I think is often overlooked. Okay, now the work environment is a community of its own. So a big question in the interviewer's mind is, could I be around this person for 8 hours a day? All right, the interviewer is considering questions like, can I see myself working with this person? Like, do they communicate well? Experientially, the hiring score breakdown seems to fall right around 65% skills and 35% attitude. All right, let's look at some examples. Let's assume that you're the average applicant for an entry-level position, okay? You have a strong academic background, a little bit of project experience, okay? Decent problem solver, but like you'll probably need to learn some stuff on the job. That'll land you about an 85% in skills, okay? That brings your technical score to 55.25. But you're a great communicator, you're fun to be around, you're an inquisitive learner, all right? Attitude score of 95%, and you're at 31 points, okay? Add those two together and boom, okay? You're at a cozy 88.5 points, which is A-, B+. Basically like solid choice, higher unless the other candidate is like Tony Stark or something. All right, let's look at another example, okay? Let's say this one guy has been coding since he's 12 years old, all right? Lots of experience, straight A's, double major, always top of his class. Wow, 100% in technical skills, all right? That's 65 points, okay? Unfortunately, being the best left him with like a bit of a superiority complex, okay? Doesn't really like working with a team, kind of has his own way of doing things, okay? Lands him 10% in attitude for a chilly 3.5 points. So his total score is sitting around like 67.5 points, which is a failing grade. Obviously, those examples are hyperbole, but the general principle seems to hold true. I barely declared CS. I graduated with only 7 CS upper divs. I was sending in apps with a GPA of 3.1, but I signed a full-time offer in the August before my senior year, and I've never been rejected from an interview. Okay, that is not a flex. Well, okay, it kind of is. On the flip side, they're double majors with high GPAs, they checked off all the boxes, and they still had difficulty landing internships during undergrad. All that to say, there is more to your application than just classes and projects. Companies hire based on potential, so a good attitude paired with at least basic proficiency will get you going in the right direction. Okay, as a teacher, the most difficult students are the ones who have attitude issues or who just are not interested, not the ones who have trouble learning material. Practicing effective team communication and building a growth mindset pay off big in the long run, and you can start working on those right now. So now you've cleaned up your resume, you've taken a few classes, you have some good side projects, you've been working on your communication skills. How do you apply? Now, people generally agree that internship hunting boils down to the principle of accuracy by volume, also known as spray and pray. The recruiting process generally starts with a bunch of applications. After that, companies usually follow up with a coding challenge. If you do well on the coding challenge, you move on to a phone screen. If you do well on the phone screen, you move to an on-site interview. After that, you get an offer or a rejection. Congratulations. Now, the less apparent reality is that your number of open applications decreases exponentially at each step, okay? Let's look at some loosely average numbers, all right? 150 applications will lead to 10 automated email responses. Those 10 responses will lead to 9 coding challenges. 9 coding challenges will lead to around 3 to 4 phone interviews. And after that, it all hinges on your interviewing ability. As an encouraging note, once you start getting a few interviews going, usually it's only a matter of time until you get an offer. So how does one reach 150 applications? On a precursory glance, that's a pretty staggering number, but it's actually pretty feasible, right? There are career fairs, which some people find helpful, but the vast majority of people find their internships through job posting sites. There are a good number of job sites out there, but Glassdoor.com is my personal favorite. In general, you want to find a website that frequently posts new listings, has an email alert system to keep you updated and motivated, has intelligent recommendations, and a clean user interface which makes applying easy. Right? Glassdoor happens to meet all of those criteria, plus their listings tend to have a pretty high response rate. Okay, and no, I'm not sponsored by Glassdoor, but I won't refuse if they decide to send me a couple $1,000. Another helpful tip is to ask your working friends or mentors for referrals. Referrals are a big boost in your application for the reasons above, so if you have contacts who are working full-time, definitely ask them for a referral. Okay, that's it for today. I know that was a lot, but hopefully that gives you an idea of where to start. My closing advice would be to take small steps. Okay, preparing for the industry is an overwhelmingly scary task, takes a lot of work and effort, but it's very manageable if you work on it one step at a time. All right, keep your eyes out for project opportunities, get involved in interesting clubs or groups, and focus on one goal at a time so you don't stress yourself out. Okay, speaking of which, don't forget to sign up for Hack in Place, which is coming up in a few weeks. It's gonna be a great time to hack, meet other students, and prepare for the fall semester. Lastly, try to find an older mentor who can help you navigate college and the transition into adulthood, even beyond academics and career. I met some really awesome people who showed me not only how to write my resume, how to debug code, but also how to look for apartments, how to play guitar, how to resolve conflicts, how to live Christian life. That made all the difference. But that's a story for another time. Thank you for watching, stay safe, I'll see you next time.